Welcome back, guys, to Captain's Corner. This is going to be episode 5. Today, I am accompanied by Core, a well known, well respected player in 8012. Core, how's it going, man?
I'm great. Thanks, Sexy, for doing this.
Yeah, man, of course. It's been honestly a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed doing it, and I have learned quite a bit actually about some people that, I know who they are in Discord, but I don't actually know who they are. So getting started here, Core, I see your name all the time. People talk about you. I don't actually personally know you that much, besides like seeing you around. So tell me a little bit about who exactly you are, in 8012 and like maybe what leagues you've played or how long you've been playing.
Yeah, I mean, I started Dota way back in the beta days. Dota 2, I was not I was into Valve games with my older brothers, so we really enjoyed like TF2. So that's kind of where I got my introduction is
Mm-hmm.
my older brother got a beta key and that's how I started playing Dota. Um, so I played back in 2013, when it started.
Okay.
Um, I kind of took a I'm like I've kind of take a big break between like in kind of those years on and off I've been so I haven't been playing like consistently for like 10 years or anything. But about in 2021 I think I returned kind of and got back into the game. And then about I think about a year ago in like September is when I started playing leagues where I was like kind of interested in a little more competitiveness and playing as like in a team rather than just pubbing.
Yeah.
So I started with PDC. I'm sure that's known, PDCR.
Yeah.
I had a team at that I didn't know anyone, so I just like said looking for a team basically, and so I joined with other people that also didn't know anyone, and so we formed a team. It was with Bear. I don't know if you know him or
I do. Yeah.
okay, yeah, Bear and Rookie as well. So that was my first ever team.
Okay.
And then in October last year, I think I was in like other league Discord, so I was in the 8012 Discord, but I didn't know anyone and I didn't join. I There was a stand-in request from Wild Daddy f- um for his team. It was a regular season game. It was against I think Greco's team or Gear's team that season. I think it was Pot of Sins or Pot of Greed, whatever it was that season.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my first ever introduction to 82L. Um, Big shout out to Wild Daddy. Um, and so that's I think my first introduction to 82L. And then
Okay.
yeah,
So this is your first season captaining, this current season, season 39.
yes.
Okay, very cool. So, if this is your first season captaining, what brought you to captain it over, just being a free agent?
So truth be told, I'd rather not necessarily captain. I mean, I'm okay with it, but what happened was so after playing with IPA and the Seven Dark 30 boys and Amir, I learned a lot from IPA.
Hmm.
I want to say big shout out to him as well.
Oh yeah,
Um,
everybody loves IPA.
yeah, so but I think what happened was I had taken a break from the Glicko season. So after Challenger season, that was my first like season where I was actually like fully on a team. And then the next season I had taken a break, and also because Glicko kind of I didn't have a rank basically for a while for like the season, so I couldn't like join. And then basically I had a specific player that I wanted to play with that made a team would make a team. Um, and so the idea was I was going to make a team specifically so that I could play with this player.
Okay,
Yeah, and yeah, so
so
that's how kind of how it came into captaining.
okay, got you. So that kind of leads me into my next question then of where exactly you found some of your players because I know personally that I don't know, some of your players like I don't know what to call him O or triple O,
Yeah,
Blocka, like
who
some of these people I don't know and I know a lot of other people didn't know before the season started. Like where did you find some of these players?
So I had met Blocka through Jerbear.
Hmm.
So it was just someone he was pubbing with, or and Rookie as well. I don't know how specifically they met him, but that's when I was pubbing with them. That's how I met them, met Blocka, and I met Cryptic through Blocka as well. Or Cryptic was also part of that group. Um, and then Jazar I knew from Wild Daddy's team, and I had pubbed with Wild Daddy, and sometimes, like Bonky and Jazar was there as well sometimes. So
Yeah.
I knew him from Wild Daddy. And then I didn't know U because of that other player. So his name is Nilsh. I've probably some people know or have heard of him, but he was the player that I was planning to play with, and that's why I made the team. So because he didn't calibrate, he I basically had to find someone. So I was looking around. It was like maybe a day before, and that's when we were planning to be champ. And so it was like a day before, or like 3 days before the season started, where we moved down to Conk, and I had to try to find someone. And so there was a few people I was considering, but this U person was someone that Cryptic had played with. So Cryptic and Blocka knew him because they had pubbed with him before. So I trusted them, and so put him on the team. And so that's how all the players came along.
Okay. Cool. Cool. I know playing against your team personally this season and seeing how you've done, you guys are doing really well. I mean, you're basically top three now, right? Because you're upper bracket
Yeah, I think
finals
we're this we
before.
were yeah, I think we're the second seed, but yeah, I think we're top three now, I guess. Yeah.
I meant like top three finish because whoever wins y'all series goes to finals. So I think it's like top.
Right.
You're guaranteed top three finish minimum.
Oh, okay.
Which yeah, yeah, which is I mean that's insane. That's really good. I know Blocka personally is like a hell of a fucking player, dude. I think all the mid lane tier list he was like bottom three at the start, and then now it's like he's one of the only mids people talk about. He's insane. So I love everybody in your team. I think they're all great players and they're all very PMA from what I've heard as well. Um, so a little bit about you though, because this is maybe this is just something I've seen. I don't know, but I've seen in the Discord. I've counted 5 different people that complained that you didn't play with them this season. So I want to know why is that and what is going on with that.
Yeah, so that was my kind of I made a betrayal list because it started with Wild Daddy where I had like left him for his rivals IPA stack, and then I kind of left IPA, and so that was part of it. I think there's a lot of people that have just wanted to play with me um for I don't know specific reasons. I guess like I don't know, maybe they think I'm good or
I mean, you're a
like
hell of a 5 player. I mean, come on,
so.
give yourself a little credit.
And I think part of it is as Bonky would say is my central voice. He thinks of me as, people think me and Tree are up there in terms of central voices. So I think that could be part of it as well.
I mean, hey, that's a fair assumption. I mean, sometimes voice goes a long way in keeping some mental stability on teams.
Yeah.
So I can get behind that. But okay, that's a very cool reasoning. But I was curious about that because I see people messing with you all the time about it, especially when the season first started. I saw that a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah,
So
yeah, because yeah, and I always want to play with them too, but it's like you can only play with four people at a
yeah,
time. So
yeah, I got you. I got you. So going forward into your team as a whole, and you as a captain, I want to ask, since this is your first season captaining, I think everybody that I've interviewed so far, they've been a captain for at least like minimum 3 seasons, at least 3, 4, 5 seasons. And so since this is your first time as a captain, I want to ask you: is there anything that you've struggled with captaining your own team, and then maybe some things that you do personally as a captain to keep your team together, keep mental, what you do, like draft prep, these kind of things as a captain this season? How have you navigated
uh
that?
um so I think at least one of the things early on when we started playing I think a lot of my players like to run at people, and I think I was more objective minded. So I think that was something that was kind of at least not necessarily a struggle, but it was definitely a clashing of ideas. And
Hmm.
so figuring out how to, maneuver that and play with that and, have the ideas like come together, I think was definitely something that I had thought about. In terms of how I keep the mental now, I think I'm very problem solving. I have a problem solving mindset. So I think when I like focus on the game and it's not like, who did this or who did anything wrong. It's not like pointing fingers. It's more like, okay, this is what we need to do to come back. I think that's when you're thinking about it in terms of like that, I think it's much easier to think clear and keep the comms clear, basically, to allow for that to happen, to have problem solving discussions.
Yeah, for sure. I know that's something that I personally with my team is, you have something go wrong, or not necessarily like in a negative or toxicity kind of way, just something in the game happens that should not have happened, right? And you want to talk about it right then. And sometimes you got to wait till the game's over because you can't spend 30 seconds talking when there's still a game going. And
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
yeah, being able to have that clear mind, being able to, say, we'll push that aside, talk about it in a bit, and keep the game going, keep, fixing that. That's definitely something that is very valuable. I know personally, it's something I do struggle with because I reflect too much on stuff in the moment. So I like that. That's very very cool. Um, I know that your team was you said second seed. I mean everybody was tied for first basically, but
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
second seed. Um, how has your season been in terms of how you feel your team fares against other teams? Because I know a lot of these teams, people, everybody in Conquer right now is saying that, besides obviously like the bottom two teams, everyone's like every team is even skill, any team could take any game off anybody, et cetera, et cetera. But how do you feel your team has fared against everyone else this season?
I'm pretty confident that our team is definitely up there in terms of the top three, I think, at least at a minimum. I do kind of agree with the notion that like a lot of the Conquer teams are very similar in the skill, and I think the wins kind of reflect that to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
How like close everyone was with like four people being tied, and then like a seven and win and a six win. So I do kind of agree with that sentiment. I do think that my team, if everyone's playing at their best, I think my team is the best, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I 100%. I mean, you got to root for your boys. I mean, I think most captains would agree that if their players are having a good day, their team's
Yeah.
the best. I mean, that's just a
Yeah, but
given. Yeah,
but only in one of that confusion. Oh, I guess not necessarily.
I get you. Only one team can really be the best. It's only gonna be one winner.
Yeah,
So,
true.
so that I appreciate you saying that because that leads me into something I wanted to talk about. So not next week or I guess this coming week because of Thanksgiving. But the week after is your guys' series. It is the basically the upper bracket finals to go to grand final.
Hmm.
Your team versus I am I was. I am I was is a very controversial team. And while they are controversial, they've also put up numbers. I mean, they're in grand finals of upper bracket. Um, what has been going on with this whole? I don't know if I want to call it a rivalry, but I think they've been adding you a ton and calling you out. What's going on with that?
I have no idea, to be honest.
Okay.
There's no ill will or, I don't harbor anything against any of the I am I was people, so Um, I don't know. You gotta ask them that.
Okay. I know that I was talking to Rhino in particular, and he thinks that you guys had a very easy schedule and that you guys didn't deserve being in top like five. I mean, everybody made first place. I think it was like top five, and he didn't think you guys deserved that, and that that's what he wants to prove in the next matchup is that's what I was told. So I think it'll be a very good series because I've played against your team myself. I think you have a hell of players.
Yeah,
Um,
in terms of the strength of schedule allegations, I mean, there's 10 teams in the conference, so like we didn't play. So in the regular season, we didn't play Savage or uh, Grin Fury, right? Those were the only two
mhm.
teams we played. So it's kind of hard when you look at the end of the season. It's kind of hard to say someone had a bad or a good strength of schedule.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's like you're playing 80% of the league anyway. So,
Yeah, so and obviously I know
yeah, give or
teams can
take.
change. I understand teams can like fluctuate and change during the season, but it's a little flimsy, I think.
Yeah. So, I want to ask you something. This is something personal, a personal question from me to you. Whenever I played your team, I did a lot of my scouting and I have some, other friends who are also captains in Conquer, some other players in Conquer that I'm good friends with. And I was told that if I don't ban your Elder Titan, I will lose. Is what I was told. And so I want to ask you because I'm looking at your Dota buff here, and Elder Titan's not even in your top 10. And so I want to ask you, like, what is this whole Elder Titan thing about? And like, are you like the Elder Titan guy, or like what's going on here?
Yeah, I think there's a few players that very harp on my Elder Titan being good, and I do take pride in it. I do think my ET is good. It's not in my top 10 because I haven't I learned it kind of recently. I mean, within the past like 6, 7 months maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that's why there's not many games. And if you've checked my Dota buff, like I don't play many pubs as well.
Yeah.
So so there's not many like heroes that are going up basically.
Mm-hmm. No, I was definitely looking at that, and you do not play a lot of pubs.
Now
Um,
whether you should ban my ET is not something I've like I think I can be beaten.
I mean, everybody thinks they can be beaten on their best hero. I mean, that's why everybody says don't
Yeah.
ban their best hero. I mean, that's just.
Yeah. So,
I mean, don't ban my OD. That's I mean, that's all I'm gonna say. But
okay, yeah, we'll think about that one.
yeah, yeah. No, but I do remember playing against your team. You picked Oracle, and a hell of an Oracle. I think that's a very hard hero to play against. Especially when you lack catch. So kudos to you on that one. So I want to ask. I know I touched on it a little bit. Going back to the I Am I Was series in 2 weeks. I want to know what do you do in terms of your draft prep whenever you're gonna play another team? Because I know draft is like I mean that's a lot of a game. That's kind of like what sets up for a game. Your lanes, everything. And being a new captain, you don't have to give me your spicy details and leak your strats, but I want to know how you prepare and what you do going into a series.
Um, so my scouting, I think I l- so what I learned from IPA was he scouts a lot, and I'm sure you probably
Yeah,
remember talking to him, is he scouts a lot, and I did like that, and I do like that. I just don't do it as much as IPA. So I'm kind of more like relaxed in terms of scouting. I just don't necessarily put I do look at obviously I do scout and I do think up a draft plan. But it's not as concrete or not as it's not as like well thought out, it's not like
yeah,
I'm
I got you.
spending,
It's not a concrete, definite plan.
I'm not spending like 12 hours on like really
Yeah.
focused drafting, so
I think in some ways too that can also be really helpful because you're a lot more open minded whenever you get into a draft too. Your players may say that they want this or this hero, and those two heroes might not be something you even thought of yet, but you're open minded to it, and you don't have this definite plan, so you can like work around it. I think one of your players said in Discord either today or yesterday that a lot of times they say what they want, and if it doesn't sound like a grief, you'll just pick it for them.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's I really envy that because the fact that you can do that and y'all are top three, I mean, it says a lot, right? It says a lot about your team.
yeah, I'm very, if you've ever like drafted with me or like if you've seen me with art, like, yeah, I'm very like open to people playing their heroes because at the end of the day, I play this game for fun and I know
Yeah,
it's competitive and I don't want to necessarily play boring heroes. So I understand when other people don't want to play specific heroes at a minimum. So I'm very open to allowing people to play and having fun as long as it's like we're still trying our best and we still think it's like a decent draft. I think it's like we're an ancient and like I don't think like I think that obviously the draft matters, but I think it matters a lot less
yeah.
than like the pro scene.
hmm I would agree with that, and I understand your sentiment wholeheartedly. You will never see me picking Viper, never in my life if I play that dumb hero. So
Yeah.
I understand that. I understand that sentiment. So I want to thank you for the interview. I know I have a lot of people that have been watching lately, and I had a couple people that wanted me to interview you specifically. So I do appreciate you coming out for this. I have two last questions I want to ask you. The first one that I'm gonna ask you here is I want you to give me an MVP on your team, like one player, and it can't be yourself. One MVP on your team going into, you possibly only have two series left to play. Upper bracket grand finals, then the grand final. So one player who has been not necessarily the best on your team, but who has been an outstanding player and who you are impressed with so far this season.
Um, I mean, I will say I did know because I've played with Blanca more than I have with U, for instance. But
Mm-hmm.
if I had, it'd be one of those two, I think. Because I've played with Blanca before, I'm less impressed, as you can say, because I've seen what he's able to do. So in terms of like how impressive a player is to me, it'd probably be U, but I'd probably give the MVP overall to Blanca.
Okay. Okay, I respect that. I know Blanca's one hell of a mid laner. He's probably the only mid in Conquer this season that gave me a run for my money and was difficult to lane against. That guy's Leshrac is insane, and it's not even a Leshrac patch. So
Yeah.
I respect that. My last question for you is I've asked this to everybody else, so if you've seen, you might already know this question. What is a pro player, one pro player, you could choose two or three, it doesn't matter, but one in particular that you admire or envy or look up to, and then one player in 8012 that you respect.
So yeah, when I was starting Dota, I was a pause 3 player, so I played like Timber and like Night Stalker and like Abba 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then about like maybe a year and a half ago, I was like randomly watching Twitch and then the Twitch stream raided Insania. And I basically watched Insania stream and then that forever turned me into a pause 5 player. So
Really? That is
yes,
awesome.
that is my origin story.
That is
So
awesome.
I love Insania. So that is the one hero I look up to a lot. So
I think Insania is insane. He was on my fantasy for TI. I love Insania. I love
yeah.
that guy. He's crazy. So
Um,
what is one 8012 player that you respect? Doesn't have to mean that they're better than you or worse than you, whatever. Just
right,
one
yeah.
person you respect.
I mean that's so hard. I love so many, but I'll have to either give it to IPA or probably Wild Daddy because he introduced me to 8012. So I love Wild Daddy.
Cool, cool. Those are I respect both of those choices. You are the third person to say IPA. It really says a lot about that guy. The guy, I love IPA, man. He's a great guy. So, I respect both of those choices, though. Shout out Wild Daddy. So, thank you so much, Core. I really appreciate you taking the time to get back to me for this interview. I really appreciate it, man. And I wish you the best of luck in 2 weeks, man. I really hope to see you in grand finals.
All right, yeah, yeah, you too. Thank
Yeah,
you.
man. Thank you. Take it easy, brother.